Let's take a look at the Capture One interface. Beginning on the left side, you have the tool tabs. Individual tools are grouped into tabs based on category. The default order of the tabs is based on the order in which we expect you're going to work on the image. First is the Library tab, where we can organize our files and access different images. Next is the Camera tab, which gives us the various setups for tethering. After this is the Lens tab, the Color tab, the Exposure tab, Details, Local Adjustments, and the Clipboard. The clipboard will be used later on when we're copying and applying settings from one image to another. We've also got metadata, processing settings, and finally, the batch queue. On the opposite side, we see the thumbnail browser. Thumbnails from images of the folder that we are currently looking at will appear here. Display of images can be changed to a list mode, or in the regular mode, we can make the window larger or smaller, and the images will begin to adjust size automatically. Manual controls for the size of the image are also available. In the middle of the screen is the viewer. In the default view, the image will fill the entire space. However, if you zoom in, you can check detail and focus. At the top, you have options for the viewer. We can either show all images selected or restrict viewing to only the primary image. We can also adjust the margin as it appears on screen. There's a proofing margin, or we can go into Preferences and set a custom level for the margin. At the top of the window, you have the toolbar. Here you have buttons for many quick commands in Capture One. You also have cursor tools in the center. The cursor tools allow you to access features of a tool without having to actually go and find that tool. For instance, by selecting the crop cursor, we can immediately crop the image without having to go locate the crop tool in the Lens tab. Each tool also has its own mini toolbar. For instance, if we look at the top of the exposure, we can see a Help button, an Auto button, a Local Copy and Apply button, a Reset button that only corresponds to that tool, a Presets menu, and finally, a Local Tool menu, which gives you specific items for specific tools. In the Window menu, you can access a separate viewer window. This is useful for dual monitor setups. For instance, you could just set up Capture One across two screens while showing the tools alongside the viewer window and hiding the viewer in the main Capture One window. Or, if you have a photographer who would like the image appearing on a screen next to them, but not be bothered with the rest of the tools and thumbnails in Capture One, this could be left simply as an image viewer. The Capture One interface can be customized significantly by adding, subtracting, or moving tools around. Tools can be moved with a simple drag and drop. Or, they can be removed from the Local Tool menu. If you want to add a tool, right-click, Add Tool, and we can simply add it back in. Then just drag it to the position that you want it to be. Tools can also be made to float. When a tool is floating, it will remain on screen regardless of what tool tab you're looking at. Certain tools, like the Curve tool or the Color Balance tool, will scale as you enlarge them. This gives you a tool which is much easier to use and allows you to make more specific adjustments. Keep in mind, the tabs are just suggestions. You can have any tool in any tab, and even have multiple instances of the same tool if needed. For instance, if we add an additional curve tool, then we can view both the RGB and Luma curves separately at the same time. You can also add and remove tabs as you see fit. Right-click at the top of the tabs, and then simply Add Tool tab or Remove Tool tab. The toolbar can be customized as well. For instance, if we wanted to get rid of a lot of the extra items, we can simply click and drag them off screen. This allows me to have a much simpler toolbar and only use the tools that I'm actively using. Once you have edited your workspace, it's a good idea to go to Window, Workspace, and save it for later use. By saving the workspace, you can quickly access it from the menu. This is particularly useful if you're using different workspaces for different photographers. You might need a dual monitor workspace one day and a single monitor workspace the next. Put a lot of thought into the tools that you do and do not use and what order you use them in. Think about that when setting up your workspace, and you can have a much more efficient experience in Capture One. When setting up your workspace, think about the tools and the buttons you use the most. Remove the items that you're not using, and you can have a much more efficient experience in Capture One. Keep in mind that if you can't find a tool you're looking for, the easiest way to grab it is to probably just go back to the default workspace. Go to the Workspace menu and choose Default.